episode of Vanya's Career Show. I'm Sunita Rai, your host and founder of Vanya Career Consultancy, where we help students and professionals navigate their career journeys with clarity and confidence. Today's episode is all about career flexibility, adaptability, and following your passions even when your journey takes unexpected turns. A concept that is also at the heart of the National Education Policy 2020. The NEP 2020 encourages students to explore diverse subjects and develop multidisciplinary skills rather than being conformed to rigid career paths. Our guest today, Mr. Rakesh Singh, is a perfect example of this philosophy. His journey spans across science, economics, graphic design, and IT leadership, a transition that many may seem unconventional yet incredibly inspiring. Rakesh started his high schooling with science, graduated in economics. He began his career in graphic design, transformed into IT, and now a CTO at a Fortune 500 company in the US. Recently, he also became an author with his book, A Roadmap in My Name. His journey proves that success is not about following a straight path, but about evolving, learning, and seizing new opportunities. How did he navigate these shifts? What lessons can students learn from his journey? Let's hear Rakesh's story. Rakesh, welcome to Vanya's Career Show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, ma'am. It's an honor to be at your show, and I'm really looking forward to give the best, information to the viewers.
Thanks, Rakesh. Rakesh, your career journey is fascinating. Your journey began with an ambition to become a fighter pilot. I think, as you told me, that was your ambition since your primary classes. But you
Correct.
eventually moved into graphic design. That's quite a shift. What made you choose graphic design as a career?
See, I will tell you that I became graphic design by accident. So, as you said, right, I always wanted to be a fighter pilot since I think I was in my second grade. And that was the reason why I took all my education focused around that career, right? Because if you really want to be a fighter pilot, you need to have at least physics and maths until you're 10 plus 2, right? So that's the reason, as you mentioned in my introduction, I was a science student until my, high school. And then I really wanted to align, my career goals. So I was doing some flying classes also during my college. But then unfortunately, after, three attempts, I could not qualify the SSB interview, and I was at a point in time where I had to move on, right? um, and I did not acquire any other skill because I was very confident that I'll become a fighter pilot. And I was also an IT illiterate at that time, even though the IT was at the boom. So I had no other way. I was just wandering and looking around for my next journey, and I saw an ad for a graphic designer. And then it wasn't a easy interview because I was competing with BFAs and MFAs, people who have formally learned that art. But I was fortunate to get an opportunity. So that's how I started, my first job as a graphic designer.
That's quite interesting, And दिस इज रियली अ केस कि बहुत सारे बच्चे जब वो अपना ड्रीम कैरियर नहीं पा सकते हैं आफ्टर मेनी अटेम्प्ट्स दे गो इनटू यू नो डिप्रेशन और दे फील दैट कि उनकी तो बस जिंदगी ही अब खत्म हो गई है I think you are a classic example that one has to fight because destiny has something else, you know, ensured for us. जरूरी नहीं है कि हम जो चाहे हमें हमेशा हर पल मिलेगा. And that's really quite interesting. Rakesh, today graphic designing is a part of branding, marketing, UI, UX, and even digital experiences. In your opinion, why is graphic design such a valuable skill in today's world? Can it
Yeah, I
become a
mean,
valuable skill also?
नो एब्सोल्युटली राइट। देखिए मैडम, एक चीज तो हम सब जानते हैं कि नॉलेज नेवर गोज इन वेन। जो भी आपने कभी सीखा हो वो आपको कभी ना कभी आगे जरूर काम आएगा, राइट? सो आई वुड हाईली एनकरेज स्पेशली स्टूडेंट्स टू हैव दैट ओपन माइंडसेट, राइट? दे शुडंट लीव एनी अपॉर्चुनिटी टू लर्न एनी न्यू स्किल्स, राइट? तो जैसा मैंने बताया कि आई बिकेम ग्राफिक डिजाइनर बाय एक्सीडेंट, राइट? That was not in my plan, and I think I also learned a bigger lesson in my life, right? No matter how much confident you are, you should always have plan B in your back pocket, right? uh, तो वो जो आपने बताया ना, बहुत से बच्चे फिर वो डिप्रेशन में चले जाते हैं, निराश होते हैं, वो उनको हेल्प कर सकता है, बिकॉज इफ दे कुड नॉट गेट टू देयर फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी, दे कैन इमीडिएटली जंप एंड शिफ्ट their focus on the second one without wasting time and energy, right? So when I got into graphic design, it was difficult for me, right? As I told you, because I never had that formal education on graphic designing, right? But it was a learning curve. But if you look in today's era, especially with digital marketing and social media, in play, it's a skill that people can now professionally make their career, right? इतना ज़्यादा digital content बन रहा है that you really need to have, if you have that skill, you can actually make a very good career out of it, right? And not only in the digital marketing and the social world, if you grow in an organization, you definitely require skill to, presentation skill. So if you have learned these graphic skills, it can even be helpful into your day to day life, as a leader, because you have to make presentations, right? And it is, graphic is very directly related to creativity, right? एंड अगर हम सब देखें, इफ यू रिमेम्बर, हमारे टाइम पे स्टार ट्रैक आता था, इट यूज टू बी अ साइंस फिक्शन, बट इन 10-20 years mobile phone become a reality, right? So I am a strong believer that it always starts with art, and then science come to bring that into reality, right? So creativity and art, graphic designing is a very, I would say, a very helpful skill and a very required skill, even if you want to make it as a profession, or in any other profession. If you really want to grow as a leader, these skills are going to help you, and it is helping me, like जैसा आपने कहा beginning में, मुझे it was, I was just uh, blowing with the wind, and I entered as a graphic designer. But now if I go back and connect the dot, I now realize that there was a purpose where God has to take me through that journey, because in my current role, I use all of that skill effectively for my presentations.
Very, very nice. Very encouraging, Rakesh. As I said earlier, that you started your high school with science, graduated in economics, built a career in graphic design, and transitioned into IT leaderships. That's an incredible journey across different fields. How did you navigate these shifts, and what were the challenges that you faced?
It was not a very smooth ride, right? It was a bumpy ride. And I think the only thing I'll tell all of your viewers is, I think what helped me was my persistence and perseverance, right? um, I I knew that, one is, I never had an option, right? So I had to just keep moving forward. So when I started the graphic design, the this is a very interesting story. I used to work for NIIT for their software division, and every Monday there used to be a message on the computer that, hey guys, there is a chocolate at my desk. And I was like, who brings this chocolate to their desk every day? And then I realized that those were the people who were coming back from US for doing a software development projects, and they were bringing those chocolates with them, right? So it just made me curious to know more about how can I be part of that journey, right? How can I be part of the bigger world? And then I realized that those guys, are developers, and if you can gain some technical skill, I can also open up more opportunity or a bigger opportunity or a global opportunity for myself, right? So that is how I, started gaining, certifications, technical skills, self. Like today, everything as the disposal of your thumb, right? In those days, you need to. The only way for you to gain access to an information was through books, right? Internet had started at that time, but it wasn't available to everybody. It wasn't democratized the way it is democratized today, right? um, but I was blessed because I had all of that infrastructure and facility at my work. So what I used to do is, once my job was done, I still used to stay back at work and use those resources to keep educating myself, and then when I ended up into a hardcore technical role, then the next challenge for me was, as an arts graduate, to compete with all the engineering graduates, right? And I still remember I was almost all performing, even better, if not equal, to my peers, even though they were formally trained on, technology. But it it became a hindrance for me at a certain point, because when I started applying for abroad jobs, their minimum qualification for H1B, that you need to have at least a technical education. If I mean, at least BCom was still acceptable degree for them to process your visa, and nobody wanted to process a visa for an arts graduate, right? So then I had to figure out my way, that my degree cannot become an hindrance for me. What else can I do, right? And that is where, one of my manager, he told me that, why don't you focus on your strength? You have a potential of becoming a good people leader. And then that is how I swilled my career towards leadership, and I finished my business school, like MBA, and then I started entering more into a leadership role, and that even further opened up an opportunity, because there is a different kind of visa, which is like L1A, that generally are issued to people, who have those managerial skill, and that way I could open up the doors for United States for me.
That's really very interesting. And I think this is the information which most of the students today lack. So
Yeah.
I think if they put in their best and start navigating, they will definitely be able to find doors open.
Yeah, absolutely.
And gradually you earn degrees from MIT, Cornell, Stanford, and that's really, really impressive. Many students wonder, and as you have also already said, I'm asking it again, that are degrees and certifications necessary for IIT careers, or skills and hands on experience be enough? Or you need both?
See, from my experience, I would say, both. Um, and the reason is, of course, skill is what you are going to use 99% of the time at your work, right? So that's a no brainer. You need to have skills, right? And that's what will give you growth. But then the reality is, for you to get an entry, right? Your skill is not the only thing that will be tested, right? Even before you get to an interview, you have to go through, your resume will go through a shortlisting process, right? So people are going to definitely look at your education, look at the certification, because that tells them, that how much dedicated you are, right? What other learnings that you have done, right? So from that perspective, at least to get you a ticket, right, into a job, you really need to have those qualifications and those certifications, because they make your resume look good, right? Because people do not know you, because they haven't yet interacted with you, right? So that is the first impression that anybody would create out of your resume, right? So, and then, as I also said in the beginning, knowledge never goes in vain, right? And these certifications are only going to give you more skills that you can, and also it gives a lot of networking opportunities, right? When you go to institutions and meet more people, you build a bigger network, which is also very important for your growth, right? So, a short answer, I would say both is equally important. um, so we should never think that I should only focus on skill. I mean, it's especially if you are a job seeker. If you want to become an entrepreneur and a job creator, I mean, to certain extent, okay, skill is going to be your best friend. But in a longer run, I would highly encourage everybody to continue to add, to their profile, different degrees and certifications that they can do. It will just make your profile look very impressive.
Very rightly said, because if you want to grow in your career, you have to be a continuous learner. That's
Yeah.
very, very essential. Uh, Rakesh, I have one question, since you are not from the IT background. So many students, or like you who are from the non-technical background, they also dream of entering the IT profession. What advice would you give them? And what are the key skills they should focus on?
Yeah. As a CTO and as a technology leader, um, I can tell you, especially, in the world that we are with Gen AI and AI all around us, right? I would say sky is the limit, uh, especially when it comes to making a career in IT, right? It is, I mean, generally, as you said, right, there are myths and lack of information where people think that if you are not from a technical background, either from an education or from profession, you cannot make career. But today there are so many different streams within IT, right? Even if from a non-technical background, you can still pursue those streams and make a good career out of it, right? I'll give you some examples, right? um, Apart from coding, which is anyway going to be, see, most of the entry level positions in IT is going to be impacted by AI. That's the reality, right? I mean, people accept it or not, but that is the reality, right? That is where we are heading. We don't need entry level coders. You can use applications like board.ai, even for a layman, just by natural language processing, you can write an application without even knowing anything about coding, right? But I'm not saying that you don't need developers. You will definitely need developers, but the focus area will change more towards, machine learning, data science, and basically building these AI based applications. But then there are product management role, right? Project management role. There is cyber security that definitely requires a lot of uh, governance, and risk control kind of a role, right? You need business analysts, right? So, and then the line between business and ITs are vanishing, right? It is more now a business led IT than IT driving the business, right? So people who are especially from commerce background, people who are from arts background, people who have done their business studies, they can understand business better, right? Like a commerce graduate will have much better understanding about accounting and finance than a science student, right? So they can really play a role and bring value on the table, especially in the role of a business analyst and building the bridge between business and IT, right? So they can translate the business requirement better into a technical requirement. So there are, I would say, multiple streams that you can really explore based on your strength, right? And then there are multiple different certifications that you can do in these areas, which I said, and they are absolutely non-technical field, right? You don't need to have an engineering background. You do not need to know coding, or you do not need to know any technology like server cloud computing. These tracks can give you a better career and a bigger growth in the IT organizations too.
That's really an eye opener, and very informative for us students, who are still क्या कहते हैं उसको वो ढूंढ रहे हैं कि what way forward they can need.
Yeah.
So I think if they hear you this talk, they can definitely get a direction. Um, Recently, from the besides this IT career that you're having, you have become an author also. You have just your book wrote in my name, which I think seems very deeply personal, is also out in the markets.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write it, and what message do you hope to share with the students from this book?
Yeah, I think a road in my name, I will tell you, was in my wish list for almost the last 17 years, right? And right, as you make through your journey, you come to a point where it becomes your responsibility to give back to the society, right? So this thought was always in my mind that when I get to a point in my life, I definitely want to share my experience with youth, right? So that uh, if I can help them guide better in making their career, or even if I can save their time, because I can tell you that in my journey of struggle and changing and swifting from one role to another role, I may have wasted a lot of time in that learning, right? Um, so I wanted, the youth and the students to really save those good big 7-8 years, right, in their career. So that's the tip that I really want, and that's that book is all about, right? It is all about how can you become successful faster, right? I've shared some tips in those books that they can go through to save their time that I had spent, right, through those ups and downs. But unfortunately, right, I mean, we all are busy, और रोजमर्रा professions and family, इसमें आप इतने busy होते हो कि all of these always take a back seat, right? But I always wanted to kind of dedicate this to my mom, but unfortunately, I started writing this book in October of 2022, uh, and I really wanted to dedicate this to my mom, but unfortunately, I lost her in June of 23, and I was still in the process of writing this book. So of course, she didn't see that version coming up, but um, so then I expedited that process because I wanted to ensure कि ये book कम से कम उनकी बरसी से पहले मैं release कर सकूं as a dedication to her. So then I started expediting the process. I started working with publishers, right? And finally, I was able to publish this book. I think it came November of last year, 2024. But coming back to your question, um, this is all about, I think this will encourage our youths, right? Because this is a story about not only about the success, but about opportunity, right? That there is no one way of getting to the success. There are multiple different paths, right? Um, I always like, it, हमने ये बहुत सबसे सुना है कि there is nothing called as failure, right? Remove the word like impossible from your dictionary, right? ये हम सब ने सुना है, but आज मैं एक नया वैल्यू ऐड करना चाहता हूँ आपके पॉडकास्ट के थ्रू, that if we can take the word U-turn out of our dictionary, that will also help us in getting to the success. I mean, that has helped me. I always left all the options out of the table, and that's why I continue to move and find my way out, right? So that would be something that I would like to share with your viewers also today.
That's really this thing, And I'm sorry about your mother, but I'm sure wherever she is, she would be very happy and blessing you. And as you rightly said, that, we miss a lot of opportunities. And somewhere I feel, with my own experiences with with interacting with a number of students, we are a little skeptical about coming out of a comfort zone. So, hearing your story, I think one thing I would like to say to the viewers also, that you have to come out of your comfort zone and
Absolutely.
explore all opportunities. And like Rakesh said, sure, sky is also not the limit afterwards.
Yeah.
And I hope you attain more heights, still better heights in the future. Rakesh,
Thank
your
you.
journey proves that, it's a really classic example that careers don't have to follow a set path. Looking back, what's the one key piece of advice you did give to students who are uncertain about their future?
Like, ma'am, you rightly said, comfort zone, right? Comfort zone is your biggest enemy. Um, and as I said also in the beginning, right, persistency and perseverance are, your best friend. um, I always encourage everybody, especially youth, right? Because when I interact with them, um, I am sometimes surprised that when I talk to most of them and I say, okay, what do you want to be in next 10 to 15 years, right? They don't really have a very big vision, right? So my biggest advice is just dream big, right? I mean, it doesn't cost you anything, right? But if your dreams are not big, your outcomes will never be aligned with your dream, right? And if you're dreaming big and with, let's say, loss in translation, even if you could hit 80% of that bigger dream, it is still a big success, right? So those would be, like few words that I would like to, share, and I would reiterate, right? I mean, dream big, come out of your comfort zone, self discipline, right? I mean, persistency and perseverance, those are the things that will keep you moving towards your success.
Rakesh, this conversation has been incredibly inspiring. Your story proves that passion, adaptability, and continuous learning can lead to unexpected but fulfilling career paths. Your journey shows that success isn't about following a single path, it's about learning, adapting, and being open to opportunities. To all the students and viewers who are watching there, don't be afraid to explore different career options. Remember, you're not limited to just one career path. Explore, experiment, and develop skills along multiple domains. Skills and passion matter more than rigid labels. And if you're interested to know about Rakesh's book, please go and read that book, A Road in My Name. It's really inspiring and an eye opener in a lot of ways. And if you need personalized career guidance, reach out to us at Vanya Career Consultancy. We are here to help you make the right choices. Stay connected for more inspiring conversations. Until next time, take care and keep growing. Bye to all.
Thank you.
And thank you,